So Ron would have not been governor if it wasn't for me, and that's okay. Number one, he wouldn't have gotten a nomination, and number two, he wouldn't have beaten his Democrat opponent. So then when I hear he might run, I consider that very disloyal, but it's not about loyalty. But to me it is. It's always about loyalty, but for a lot of people it's not about loyalty.
So the media is reporting that Ron DeSantis is getting ready to announce his 2024 run, and we've been suspecting that for weeks because out of nowhere, or maybe not out of nowhere, Donald Trump has been bashing Ron DeSanctimonious, including multiple Truth Social posts calling him a globalist, saying that he unapologetically shut Florida down in its beaches, saying Donald J. Trump is leading big, speaking in third person, classic Trump. We're gonna read both of those posts, go through some commentary, and ask you, the audience, the question, who do you trust more? I'll say my opinion, and then I want to hear yours. Thanks for being here, folks. The show starts now.
The Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles, yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Rare Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about Trump calling DeSantis a globalist, mainstream media starting to report that DeSantis is looking to announce soon and looking for advisors, etc. So it seems like that's why Trump has been attacking DeSantis. He didn't just start doing it one day, wake up and think, oh, let me just start bashing DeSantis. I think before you run for president, there's things you do behind the scenes. You start getting donors, you start getting advisors, and the Trump team saw DeSantis doing that, in some cases taking a lot of donors that used to give money to Trump, now giving to DeSantis, etc. So Trump kind of got ahead of it, called him Ron DeSanctimonious. Now he's calling him a globalist. We're going to read both of his True Socials about it. We're going to get your opinion on which one you trust more, who you'd vote for. But first, I want to show you two polls I ran on Twitter because I think it's super interesting. So I did two different ones and worded it differently, and it's very, it'll show something. I said, who do you trust more to lead the nation, Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis? 43.6% said Trump, 56% said Ron DeSantis. So by a slight margin, right, people, at least on my feed, trust DeSantis a little bit more than Trump. Here's where it gets interesting. I asked a different question. I said, do you think if Trump was governor of Florida from 2018 to 2022 that he would have done a better or worse job than Ron DeSantis? 18.8% said better job, and an overwhelming majority, 81.2%, said they think Trump would have done a worse job. So isn't that kind of interesting? I have pretty much the same audience. I mean, more people voted in the one poll than the other, but despite the fact that it's almost a 50-50 tie, 43.6% to 56% prefer DeSantis over Trump, but an overwhelming 81% thinks that Trump would have done a worse job in Florida. You know, why is that? Why is it almost even for who they trust more, but it's lopsided for who they think would do a better job than Florida? In my personal opinion, I think that Trump wouldn't have done a better job than DeSantis in Florida. And I think that his strong point, we're going to get into this later, over DeSantis is really his foreign policy, which I think many people think he should lean into versus what he's doing now. But just an interesting kind of side by side. So I'm going to read the two truths, and we got a lot of stuff to cover today. So let me just do it. I think I'll do it in a Trump voice because it's boring when I don't do it. So he said on True Social, Trump said, the fake news media was good yesterday in their coverage of my stops in New Hampshire and South Carolina. Other than the Globalist Street Journal, which is rarely accurate or good, they said the day was really amazing. The enthusiasm to make America great again has never been stronger. The revelations about Ron DeSanctimonious doing far worse than many other Republican governors, including that he unapologetically shut down Florida and its beaches, was interesting indeed. Donald J. Trump leading big. So, you know, he's calling the Wall Street Journal the Globalist Street Journal, which is funny, which is rarely accurate or good, but he keeps bringing them up. I think he cares a lot what the media thinks. That's fine. And then he basically took a shot at Ron DeSantis and saying, you know, he unapologetically shut down the beaches of Florida. We're going to get into that in a second, but it's pretty bold of Donald Trump to kind of attack DeSantis on COVID and shutdowns when I would say he was pretty much exactly the same or worse on every topic, including lockdowns. I don't think Trump was better. You could say he was the same. You could say him and Ron DeSantis are even, but I would never, you know, we'll get into it later. Let me just read the other post. He also said, The Club for No Growth is a globalist group that I have been taking to the cleaners for years. We worked together for a period, but they couldn't get away from China, Europe, Asia, and the parts unknown. They know I won't play that game. I am America first all the way. That's the only way we will make America great again. Ron DeSanctimonious, who I made governor in both the primary and the general, is also a globalist, and so are his donors. Jeb Low Energy Bush was next to him last week. Check passed. So Trump basically saying the Club for No Growth is globalist. He's backing DeSantis. DeSantis is a globalist too, and he's with Jeb Bush. Here's my issue with all this stuff. One, I don't care. Call him a globalist. Call out the donors. Call out the phonies. I'm all for that. But it's almost like Trump himself is not trying to get better. He's just trying to point the finger. He's like, you shut down beaches. You also, and I'm going to show proof that both of them were in support of lockdowns for way too long. But in general, it's like, you're not better on that topic. You know, he's with Jeb Bush because Jeb Bush used to, you know, work in the government of Florida, and he's at DeSantis's inauguration, right? But Trump just put Lindsey Graham on a stage at his rally like 3 days ago. So it's not like these things that Trump's complaining about DeSantis with, it's not like he's really better on any of these topics. It's just like, oh, look, he's with Jeb Bush, but don't talk about me with Lindsey Graham. You know, I thought the point was to be better, not just to point out, but whatever. I want to show people this real quick. This is Pedro Gonzalez. I'm going to read this. He's one of the better people on my feed. He's America first. He's definitely not apologetic. He's very bold, and he doesn't softball Trump or DeSantis. That's why I like Pedro Gonzalez. He's not a team player. He's not delusional. He just calls it like he sees it, which is rare. Pedro wrote, the head of Club for Growth used to fly on Air Force One, get personal shout outs from Donald Trump, and boast to friends about access to former president. That only ended in 2022, meaning Trump was fine with that quote unquote globalist group until they disagreed on Dr. Oz. Amazing. So I'm going to read the article that Pedro, he basically linked when he said that to show proof. It says, David McIntosh, head of the influential conservative group Club for Growth, used to fly on Air Force One, get personal shout-outs from Trump, and boast to his friends about access. Until recently, McIntosh would meet Trump at Mar-a-Lago to coordinate endorsements in Republican primaries and even urge others to leave races, and the Club for Growth backed up the decisions by spending millions of dollars on campaign ads. Now McIntosh and Trump aren't speaking, according to Trump advisors. People who have spoken to Trump says he regularly rails for about the Club for Growth for being disloyal. And anyway, if you read on, it basically says that the Club for Growth doubled down by pumping millions into Tuesday's primary to boost Kathy Barnett against Trump's candidate, the physician and television personality Mehmet Oz, putting two of the most influential forces in the GOP, Trump and the Club for Growth, at odds. So the reason that Trump loved the Club for Growth for years, he let them fly in Air Force One, he worked with them, and the only reason he's calling them globalists now is, one, they're backing Ron DeSantis, which is fine, but also it's because they supported Kathy Barnett over Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz, you want to talk about globalists? Dr. Oz is like a liberal celebrity that's completely uninspired. And the Club for Growth, the globalist group, was backing Kathy Barnett, who was calling out the World Economic Forum globalists and was actually an outsider. I don't know if Kathy Barnett would have, done a great job, but out of the three, Oz, that other guy, and Kathy Barnett, Kathy was the real one. So the Club for Growth backed Kathy. Trump backed Dr. Oz, who's like pretty much a left-wing, uninspired celebrity. And that's why he cut ties with these people. So, I'm going to just play a few clips real quick, state my case. But I'm just going to show real quick, just to be factual, both Trump and DeSantis were in support of lockdowns at a point. So here's the video, to be fair, of DeSantis playing along to the days to slow the spread and all the communist tyranny that we endured. Here's the proof.
I'm going to be doing an executive order today directing all Floridians to limit movements and personal interactions outside the home to only those necessary to obtain or provide essential services or conduct essential activities. And we have the list of essential services that is detailed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and its latest guidance. We also are using what has been done by Mayor Jimenez down in Miami-Dade. They've been operating on essential services now, I think, for a couple weeks. And I think they really did a good job and kind of showed us the way about how to do that. Both Jared Moskowitz and Scott Rivkees will be able to add, if there are some essential services that we missed, you'll be able to add that accordingly.
So I don't want to play too much, but there's proof that DeSantis was playing along to the lockdowns. And here's proof. This is like a month and a half after 15 days to slow the spread, that President Trump was actually pro-lockdown and was telling Georgia to stay shut down. He's like, you can do it, but you're wrong and you should listen to me. So he wants you to be loyal to this.
Told the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, that I disagree strongly with his decision to open certain facilities which are in violation of the Phase 1 guidelines for the incredible people of Georgia. They're incredible people.
So he also supported lockdowns. And I want to show this because I remember seeing this April 30th. I'm just going to show you so you could see it. He said, despite reports to the contrary, Sweden is paying heavily for its decision to not lock down. As of today, 2,464 or whatever, 2,462 people have died there, a much higher number than neighboring countries in Norway and Finland or Denmark. The United States made the correct decision. So Trump was pro-lockdown for a while. He flip-flopped like a fish, but you know, the lockdown started on May 17th. This is over a month and a half after, and Trump is still saying we made the correct decision to lock down. So here's the point I'm going to make with him bashing DeSantis over lockdowns. If you look at pretty much every aspect of COVID, just to be, you know, I'm going to take my personal opinion out of this and just be like as objective as I can be. If you really go from everything to selling the vaccine or overselling the vaccine to lockdowns, to closing beaches, to closing the country, to supporting lockdowns, DeSantis was exactly the same as Donald Trump or slightly better or a lot better on almost every single topic. So it's pretty bold of Trump after 2 years of pretty much saying nothing to now all of a sudden act like he cares so much about lockdowns because he's trying to bash Donald Trump. To me, I mean, everybody might not feel this way, but it seems very fake. Like, I don't think he really cares about lockdowns that much. I don't think he really cares that much. He just wants to make DeSantis look bad. But the weird part is he's picking a topic that he absolutely got blown out of the water in, and for some reason, nobody around him wants to tell him. So if you look at lockdowns, you know, they're pretty much identical. He said that DeSantis closed down beaches. If you look it up, DeSantis did play along with the 15 days of slow the spread, but he also allowed for people to keep beaches open early, even in March. I don't know if that changed at a certain point. Trump, like we saw, he kind of flip-flopped on lockdowns a lot and said that they were good. Here's where DeSantis beats him. DeSantis came out a couple months later and admitted that it was a mistake, you know, which you never hear Donald Trump do. So he came around on the topic and was like, listen, if I would have known what I knew now, I would have opened up earlier, you know, and Trump says we made the right decision. I still haven't heard him say that he made a mistake with all that stuff because he never will. He's not that type of person. Okay. Now let's go to basically selling the vaccine. You know, a lot of Trump supporters are upset. Some aren't, but some are saying he's overselling it. Even Robert Barnes pointed out last night, he's like, well, you know, DeSantis and Trump, they both pushed the vaccine. But what Robert Barnes is not telling is the full story is, you know, Trump didn't just push the vaccine. He didn't just sell it a few times. Like Ron DeSantis went on TV and oversold it and told people to get it. And, you know, I would say told some fibs based on the data that ended up not being true. But Trump not only bragged about it, but he funded it. He did Operation Warp Speed. He passed executive orders for Big Pharma. He took money from Pfizer, $1 million. He put a pharmacy lobbyist at the head of HHS. He put Scott Gottlieb at the head of FDA, who ran off to Pfizer afterwards. He surrounded himself by swampers and pharmacy lobbyists. He picked a horrible Mike Pence, Indiana guy to be a surgeon general. He did a socialist big pharma scheme. He bought the doses, and then he ran around the country for 3 years, and he's still lying about the vaccine, and he's actually lying about it more than Bill Gates. Bill Gates says there's 3 problems with it, and he points them out. Donald Trump says it's the greatest human achievement, and he saved 100 million lives. So for Robert Barnes and others, I know a lot of people like Trump more than DeSantis, that there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to be honest, you can't say that they're exactly equal on that topic. DeSantis blows him out of the water because he oversold it like 3 times and Trump's done it like 300 times. Trump was also involved in the creation of it, in the funding of it, not like in the lab, but he surrounded himself by swampers and pharmacy lobbyists the whole time. DeSantis did it. DeSantis hired a surgeon general who's actually outside of Big Pharma. Joseph Ladapo is the best surgeon general in the country and perhaps one of the only outsiders in all of Republican politics. All of Republican politics is all fake and corny. Lindsey Graham, Jeb Bush. one of the only true outsiders that actually is against Big Pharma is Joseph Ladapo, and he's the Surgeon General of Florida, and he's 1,000 times better than Jerome Adams, the Mike Pence Indiana loser that Donald Trump put as Surgeon General, who sounds just like Anthony Fauci because he's cut from the same cloth. So, this is all I have to say to people. If you like Trump or DeSantis or whatever, I don't care which one you like more, but if Trump wants to take you lock down beaches, but I'm such a good guy, dude, Trump, you're just the same as DeSantis on lockdowns. You are worse on selling the vaccine. You're worse on the big pharma corruption. You're worse on hiring. I mean, every topic, you're either the same or a little worse or a lot worse than DeSantis. So I have to say, I thought Bryson Gray made a good point, and I agree with what he's saying here. He said, I usually don't add commentary to these posts, but Trump is attacking DeSantis on lockdowns opens him up to the same criticism. He can't beat DeSantis on this topic. If I was him, I would attack DeSantis on foreign policy and lack of experience. But, I have to 100% agree. I think the one thing that Trump is actually either better on or it's undecided is foreign policy. He did a good job. He's running around saying that he would have stopped the Ukraine war, which is very possible. I think that he could have finessed that whole situation so it never happened. I do. If Trump only said that, I'd be like, he has a point. I mean, I think he could have stopped that war potentially, which is massive. And he's hanging out with Lindsey Graham, which is weird because Lindsey Graham helped start the war. So it's like you're friends with Lindsey Graham, who you say is like your friend and a good politician. He recently was like talking Lindsey Graham up so much, putting him on a stage. Like, you're friends with the guy who basically helped start the war, but you'd stop the war. I believe you that you might have stopped it. But, anyway, on that topic, I do think that he can beat Ron DeSantis and say Ron DeSantis is a neocon. Ron DeSantis hangs out with war hawks. Ron DeSantis would have started the war. And I might actually believe it because that's an authentic, organic talking point that makes sense. But if he's going to now, after 2 years, be like, oh, you locked down, but I'm so much better at that topic, you're not. You're a fake, dude. And this is why a lot of people don't like Trump that much anymore. I'll speak for myself. But in 2021, Trump was out of office, right? He had an opportunity to be free, to be unrestrained by, politics. He's a free man. He's just a normal citizen again. And he spent his majority of his time overselling the vaccine. I watched at least 20 Trump interviews, and I watched them in full. And Trump is like, the vaccine's so great, I saved the world. Like, people don't want to get it because they don't trust Biden. If I was in office, they'd be lining up to get the vaccine. And he'd barely talk about mandates. He'd be like, yeah, mandates are bad, but let me oversell the vaccine. Yeah, mandates are bad, but in his head, he thinks that he wouldn't have even needed mandates because all the Trump supporters would have lined up to get the Trump vaccine. He's completely delusional. He's completely full of himself, and he's completely corrupted by Big Pharma, and he's a complete clown. He's a complete liar. That's all he did 2021. And DeSantis, even though he sold the vaccine a few times, he ran around the country fighting mandates. And if you listen to a DeSantis speech, he's dedicating 10 minutes to the corruption, to the teachers, to the firefighters, and Trump's running around selling the product. There's a massive difference in leadership, and that's why DeSantis went from here to here. So if Trump really wants to, in my opinion, get honest people that don't just coattail ride, he's got to be like, listen, I'm better at foreign policy. Me and DeSantis are similar on these topics. But it's weird where it's like, this is how I personally feel. And it sucks because I used to think Trump was like the coolest guy, and I really despise him. I think he's a horrible person at this point. I don't think he cares about anything. I don't think he cares about mandates that much. I don't think he thinks about lockdowns. I don't think he cares about vaccine injuries. I don't think he cares about, what we had to deal with all of the tyranny. I think he cares about himself and his image. That's why, after not being a good leader on these topics for 2 years, now all of a sudden, when it's all over, basically, he wants to talk about it just to beat DeSantis. Like, his advisors are like, talk about how he shut down Florida beaches. Bro, you're just as bad on these topics, if not way, way worse. And you hire terribly. You hired a bunch of pharmacy losers to run our government into the ground, but then you're a big victim. I had no part in that. Yes, you did. Trump was in on it. So, it's like I think he thinks his base is stupid, and I hope he's not right, because I think the base is righteous and smart, but he thinks his base is so stupid that they're going to go along to this and be like, oh yeah, now Trump cares about lockdowns. Now Trump really cares about this stuff. He doesn't. He just wants to get a leg up on DeSantis and basically make himself look better for the election. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to read a few of your comments. Basically, I'll just say this. Both of them have things that I like and dislike more, but I feel like it's sad for me, after liking Trump for so long and thinking he was such a good thought leader. Like in 2017 and 2018, if you asked me, who's the number one conservative voice? I'm not talking about like power. Yeah, it's Trump. But who's like the real thought leader outside of his power and his presidency? Like, who's the best? I would have told you Trump. Trump is the best. He's making all the best points. He's on Twitter. He's at the cusp of every social issue. You know, before something even happens, Trump is there on Twitter saying the right thing. He was the man. He was the man not because everybody had to bow down and pretend like he was the man. He was the man because he just was the man. We didn't have to make excuses for Trump in 2017. He didn't need excuses because he was doing the right thing. You don't have to make excuses for why Michael Jordan doesn't do this because he does do that. You don't have to say, oh, well, he's broke his leg or he would have been the best. No, he was the best because he was the best. Trump used to be that guy. Now you name a conservative influencer and ask me if they're more authentic than Trump, I'll probably say yes. If you say, if you ask me in 2018, who's more impressive, who's more honest, who's more raw, Trump or Matt Walsh? I would have said Trump. He was number one, not even close. Nobody's even close. Now ask me, who's more authentic, Candace or Trump? Candace. Who's more authentic, Matt Walsh or Trump? Matt Walsh. Who's more authentic, like the Hodge twins or Trump? Hodge twins. Who's more authentic, DC Drano or Trump? DC Drano. Like, Trump's not even in my top 100 authentic people. He's a total clown now. And now his biggest supporters just make excuses for him and say like, oh, this is why he can't hire good. That didn't exist in 2017. And I want to say this, use the UFC and a fighting example, and I think it'll be understandable if people follow. But in the UFC, when you're the best, you're the best. And if you're not hungry, someone's training harder than you to come beat you. That's just how it works. So if you're Conor McGregor and you have both belts, you better keep training just like you did before you got the belts and the alcohol endorsements, because if you don't, someone's going to knock you out. And that happened to Conor McGregor. Doesn't mean he's not good. I mean, UFC is brutal. It's hard to stay at the top of your game. But for the most part, if you're not hungry, someone's coming up to beat you. And that's my analysis of Trump. When he ran in 2015 and 2016, he was hungry. He was an outsider. He wasn't going to take their money. He was going to stand up to the swamp. He was going to drain the swamp and arrest Hillary or whatever. And then he got in office. He took the donor money. He surrounded himself by lobbyists. He surrounded himself by yes men. He compromised himself to big pharma. And now it's this big game where he's not the best. He's not hungry. He's not working out in the gym metaphorically, but he just wants everybody to bow down to him and get out of his way. And he's so afraid of DeSantis because although DeSantis is not perfect, I don't fully trust him. I don't know his foreign policy. He's corrupted in the same way Trump is by a certain donor class. I'll talk about it in a second. But DeSantis has been more hungry. DeSantis has been in the gym. DeSantis has been providing the leadership that Trump wouldn't do. Even 88% of people thinks that Trump would have never done as good of a job as DeSantis in Florida, because it's true. Even people who want to vote for Trump know if you would have put him there in Florida, he would have got outperformed. I mean, he's just not that guy. He just doesn't execute. He just runs around and talks and makes excuses and hires bad people, and he's just a perpetual victim. He's not in the gym working out. He's not getting better. He just wants everybody to get out of his way. So it's like, DeSantis, go away because I'm so good. You're not good anymore, dude. You haven't been in the gym. Iron sharpens iron, and you're weak, bro. You're surrounded by a bunch of yes men. You're crying over donors that you used to have, used to get backed by. You said that Sheldon Adelson was going to turn Marco Rubio into his perfect little puppet and you'd never take the money. And then you did take the money. You got over $100 million by corporations for your inauguration. You took more money than Obama and Biden by corporations, over $100 million. And then you turned into another sleazy sellout. And now you're running around the country selling the vaccine harder than Bill Gates, posting, trying to act like you were better on COVID than DeSantis. Like, who's going to believe you except for people that are completely delusional? Like, Trump thinks his people are stupid. But, I pray that he gets back to full form, because I just don't see him doing that well if he doesn't. And the one thing he actually is better on than DeSantis is foreign policy. So he should lean into that instead of, basically making posts about it. And I find it interesting that although DeSantis bashes Trump every day, Trump bashes DeSantis every day, DeSantis is just basically like ignoring it. It's just like, it's an interesting kind of angle. You do need to beat him if you want to win the election, but DeSantis is really, really popular. And this strategy of basically just saying, you lock down the beaches, just like Bryson Gray said, well, that opens you up to the same exact criticism. So if you want to, now after 2 years, now you want to talk about that? and point the finger at DeSantis as if you did a better job with COVID. Everyone knows you didn't. Just be honest about it. Be like, yo, I made a mistake. I messed up. I got bamboozled. I'm going to hire better. He's not going to hire better. He's not going to do better. He doesn't want to improve. He doesn't want to go back in the gym. He doesn't want to be the best anymore. He just wants to keep getting crappier and have everybody get out of his way and act like he's the righteous, leader to the throne. I don't see it. I'm going to play a few videos real quick, and then afterwards, I'm going to sit and just read a bunch of your comments, maybe read some from Twitter. Let me just show you two things real quick. Okay, first of all, I want to show you an article, because this is, in my opinion, the real elephant in the room that I'm getting like attacked over for noticing. So Trump says globalist, right? A lot of people say globalist. Globalist doesn't have to do with ethnicity. Globalist is somebody that, it's a broad term, basically that you care about world politics more than American politics, and you're willing to sacrifice America for the interests of a different country or the world. That's what a globalist is. Somebody that undermines the interests of American citizens and undermines the interests of America for this global communist style agenda, where we don't have the First Amendment, where we don't have the Second Amendment, where we don't have sovereignty or a national, culture of some sort that's slightly different. And we just have to follow the Greta Thunbergs of the world. And, that's what a globalist is, right? But here's an admission from Haaretz. This is the oldest Israeli publication. They've been saying this a lot. How did the term globalist become an anti-Semitic slur? Blame Steve Bannon. And there's a lot of people in the media that just so happen to be Jewish that will say, oh my God, that's so anti-Semitic. That's so anti-Semitic. That's so anti-Semitic. People got to stop doing this, because I love all people and I don't want anybody I don't like when people hate each other or argue. I really don't. I'd love to end all wars and stop all racial hate, but it's almost like you're admitting that you have a large statistic population of globalists when nobody's even talking about your ethnicity, your race, or your people, and you cry anti-Semitism when people use the word global. It's like you're admitting that you are a globalist when nobody even asked, which is weird. And here's the elephant in the room, in my opinion, is I want to show you just two clips real quick, and this will fully explain who DeSantis and Trump really are, in my opinion, and the commonalities that they both have and how they're both kind of those type of people. But first, I want to play a clip of Ilhan Omar, who I don't like at all, but just look at what they're making her apologize for, right, on CNN with Adam Schiff. Let's watch.
So when you apologized for all about the Benjamins comment, you said anti-Semitism is real, and I'm grateful for Jewish allies and colleagues who are educating me on the painful history of anti-Semitic tropes. What did you learn?
A lot. I certainly did not or was not aware that the word hypnotize was a trope. I wasn't aware of the fact that there are tropes about Jews and money. That has been a very enlightening part of this journey.
So I don't like Ilhan Omar. I certainly don't like Adam Schiff. But do you notice what they're making her apologize for? She said something about 9/11, and they're not even asking her to apologize about that. She said a lot of stupid stuff about different races. She said a lot of stupid stuff. She's a terrible politician. Her agenda's horrible. But what did they make her apologize for? Not the 9/11 comments. They said, did you learn your lesson when you said it's all about the Benjamins, which means it's all about the money, which it absolutely is? How dare you talk about foreign lobbying in America? That's anti-Semitic. Do not talk about all about the Benjamins. Just like when Nick Cannon went off and said basically white people are genetically inferior and can't possibly rise to his level, yet he's always wifing up white women. Surprise, surprise. They must be so genetically inferior that he's more attracted to them than his, whatever. Anyway, in general, they didn't even make Nick Cannon apologize for that. They told him to apologize for basically talking about Rothschilds or Jewish conspiracy theories. Do you get what I'm saying? And here's the thing. Here's Donald Trump basically saying something that you're not allowed to say also.
Well, the biggest change I've seen in Congress is Israel literally owned Congress. You understand that 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it was so powerful. It was so powerful. And today it's almost the opposite. You have between AOC and Omar and...
So he was complaining about AOC and Omar, and he said Israel used to own Congress. I mean, I guess he's pretending like they don't anymore, but is that not weird to people? Listen, I don't hate Israel. I don't hate Canada. I don't hate Ukraine, but I don't want Ukraine to own Congress. I don't want Canada to own Congress. I don't want England to own Congress. And I certainly don't want Israel to own Congress, especially when their government tries to turn their entire country into a Pfizer experiment and cries anti-Semitism when you say anything. So, but I'll get called an anti-Semite in the Republican Party for suggesting that there's donors paying Trump and DeSantis, which there are, in order to manipulate their actions, because that's what's happening. And it's not just happening from one country. If you get $100 million like Donald Trump did for his inauguration, or $60 to $80 million like Biden did for his inauguration, I'm not anti-corporation. I'm just pro-reality. They're not giving them money for no reason. You pay off the president so they do what you want. Bank of America, Pfizer, they pay off McConnell, they pay off Kentucky. Am I anti-pharmatic? No, of course not. I'm just being real. And that's why they're giving money to McConnell, Trump, and Biden, is because they want influence. And guess what? When they give the money, they get the influence. That's the deal. It's called lobbying. Everybody used to care about it 5 years ago. Now, when I talk about lobbying, whether it's foreign or domestic, Trump supporters get unhinged because it's like, how dare you? Like someone was saying the other day when I mentioned that Pfizer donated $1 million to Trump, they're like, well, they always do that. How disingenuous are you? Normally they do that to every president. Isn't that a problem? Isn't the problem that Pfizer's buying off all our presidents? Isn't that the problem? Not the fact that I have the balls to report it when your guy takes the money too? Oh no, it's the problem when I report on the lobbying and the corruption and the fact that the last Republican president sold out to them. I'm the problem for reporting it, not the fact that it's happening. Right. So you have a lot of people on the right that are getting mad at me for reporting the truth about the money that Donald Trump took and why his actions are so fake and pathetic now. It's because he sold out just like all the people he said he was running against. Now you go to the left. When I talk about, first of all, they don't care about lobbying money. All they used to talk about was how corrupt Big Pharma was and how corrupt the banks were. The banks are paying off Biden just like they paid off Obama, just like they paid off Trump. But now nobody on the left cares, and I'm getting attacked by far left activists. They're calling me anti-Semitic because I'm mentioning that lobbying money controls Congress. I mean, do the math, folks. AIPAC, go look up AIPAC. They brag about lobbying all politicians on the left wing and right wing. They make Ilhan Omar not apologize for her 9/11 comments. They make her apologize for saying it's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the money, which it absolutely is. Say you're sorry for saying the truth once in a while, Ilhan Omar. You're wrong about everything, but we're not going to condemn you when you're wrong. We're going to condemn you when you're right. Okay, I'm sorry for saying that money controls politics. How dare I? You say the word globalist, they call you an anti-Semite, even though you're not even talking about race. And then you hear Donald Trump and he says Israel literally owns Congress. When the RNC gets back in, the first thing they do is pass a speech resolution. Republicans in Florida are infringing on the First Amendment for their donors and trying to say it's anti-Semitic to pass out flyers. Donald Trump signed an executive order that basically says it's anti-Semitism to protest Israel on a college campus. Do people not get what's going on? And nobody wants to talk about it in right-wing media because they pretty much just blacklist anybody who talks about it because they're all in on it. So, long story short, Trump and DeSantis are both controlled by those same entities. They just are. So that's the elephant in the room. Like, they're going to fight with each other, and neither one of them is going to say what I just said because they're both being controlled by that. So they're not going to mention that. It's going to be this little fake circus about you're sanctimonious, you're this, you're that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room because you're both controlled by the quote unquote, whatever you want to call it, lobby of that. And here's my thing. Trump did a good job on foreign policy. I think he did a good job. I think he's doing a worse job than DeSantis on pretty much everything else. I think foreign policy is really his only shining accomplishment. I think he hires worse than DeSantis. I think he did a worse job on COVID than DeSantis. He fought the mandates less hard than DeSantis. His rhetoric was garbage over the last 2 years. He sold the vaccine more. He refuses to, address like anything that actually matters unless he's doing it for his own interest. So it's like, yes, I don't care who votes for who, but what I've noticed also is just kind of watching all the people that just ride Trump and just like never want to talk about what he's not doing. They keep calling people like desimps. Oh, you're desimping for DeSantis. You're a simp. You're a simp. Maybe I'm not looking because I don't really like have this in my atmosphere, but I haven't seen one person that's like, DeSantis is my hero. DeSantis is my savior. He's the greatest person ever. I love him. I'll never quit. I haven't met a person like that yet. I've only met people that are like, yeah, I'd vote for DeSantis because he's better on Big Pharma. Yeah, I'd vote for DeSantis because he seems a little less fake than Trump now. Yeah, I'd vote for DeSantis because I like his energy more, and it seems like he actually hires better and executes as governor instead of just yapping all the time. So it's like I haven't met a single person that just desimps for DeSantis. I just meet people that are just prefer him slightly more than Trump. And the people that are calling everybody to simps for DeSantis are simps for Trump. And they cry when I talk about lobbying or corruption, and they don't want to address the things. And, it'll be interesting to see how this all turns out. It's going to get ugly, and it is what it is. I mean, it's a Republican primary, so may the best man win. Iron sharpens iron, and I really hope that Trump just gets better, because I think if he gets better and returns to full form, he can win. But it's like this strategy he's doing of basically calling out DeSantis on things that he's worse on, all of a sudden caring about topics he hasn't talked about in 2 years because he wants to win an election, hanging out with Lindsey Graham and then crying about Jeb Bush. Like, okay, cry about Jeb Bush, but stop hanging out with Lindsey Graham then, because you're exactly what you're complaining about in DeSantis. Like, DeSantis is the same on all these topics. You're crying about donors that used to donate to you because they don't want to donate to you anymore, and acting like you never took their money when you did. He's become so fake now. So he might be able to fool a lot of people. He might be able to gain some votes, and some people might rightfully prefer his foreign policy. And it is what it is, but it's starting to get ugly in the GOP, and I'm not mad at it. I don't really care, but it's like, don't call me a DeSimp for doing reporting. You can report that DeSantis locked down the beaches if it's true. You can report that DeSantis played along to 15 days to slow the spread, because I know it's true. You can call out DeSantis for his donors, because it's true. You can call out his foreign policy in question marks, because I think challenging DeSantis is good. But stop lying about, like, all the people saying that he's a DeSimp. You guys are simps for Trump. It's the exact opposite. So, that's all it is. Let me know what you guys think, and I hope that the base kind of challenges both people and realize that, these people are not like your best friend. They're politicians. If they were your best friend, they'd both be taking $0 and just doing what they wanted. They're not. They're both taking donor money. They're both taking, in some cases, probably corporate money. I don't know about DeSantis, but I'm sure. Like, if DeSantis wins or Trump wins, here's a real journalistic question. And then give me your comments in the comment section. Give me some good stuff. Are they going to take $100 million from corporations? Because that's called being a sellout. Like, you win the election. They don't need $100 million for an inauguration. That's how much Trump took. And it's not a surprise that he hired a bunch of bad people, because he sold out and then turned into a politician. In my opinion, DeSantis hires better than Trump. DeSantis is better on COVID than Trump. Trump's foreign policy is better. So now I'm in the middle, but I would, if the election were tomorrow, I'd vote for DeSantis, because he's being less fake than Trump now. Trump could change that, but you can't bully me into thinking Trump's not being a phony. Stop trying to call everybody a DeSantis. Like, just get Trump better. I've pointed this stuff out and nobody wants to address it, so it's not making me like it more. And people's energy, it's weird. I mean, we'll see how it works out, but people are becoming hostile to people that prefer DeSantis over Trump. Just be honest about it. I'm not hostile to people who like Trump over DeSantis, but don't try to shut me up when I'm doing reporting and journalism that you don't want to hear, because you don't want to hear that he took $100 million from corporations. It's the truth. So I don't really care if you want to hear it. I'm going to keep doing my job, and you're not going to bully me out of doing a good job. But it's like, if someone came to me and said, I'm voting for Trump because his foreign policy is better, I'm not going to say that's your opinion. I'm going to speak my mind about it, but I'm not going to call you a name just because you're voting one way or another. But this is the strategy of a lot of the people around Trump, is they basically want to just bully everybody who likes DeSantis more, which is like half of the base. It's almost like a 50-50 split now. DeSantis really became that dude. Trump fell off. He's not been in the gym. He's got lame, and he has no plans of stopping. And instead of trying to get him better, you just want to tell everybody else they have to like him. No, I don't. I don't have to like a vaccine salesman. I don't have to like a guy who employed a bunch of pharmacy lobbyists. I don't have to like a guy on stage with Lindsey Graham pointing the finger at others, but not pointing the finger. I don't have to like him. I don't like him. You can't make me like him. Why don't you spend your energy trying to get him back to full form instead of letting him fall flat on his face looking like a complete doofus and losing tens of millions of people? Tens of millions of people like DeSantis more than Trump. Tens of millions of people like Trump more than DeSantis. That's fine, but get your guy better. This is why, in my opinion, DeSantis will keep rising, because he's not even addressing this stuff. He's just working. He's just doing stuff. And it's like Trump is just like, that's all he has. It's like, get out of my way. You're unloyal. You're unloyal, dude. And I'm tired of this whole victim mentality. It's so annoying. Just like we say to, Black America, a lot of people say, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, Don't wait for somebody to save you. The government's not going to save you. They're not going to do anything for you. You have to become the change you want to see in the world. People say that to Black America all the time. But then when it comes to politics, it's like 2024, he's going to save the country. And, it's like, he's not going to really save you either. Like, we got to do this as well. And when it comes to Trump, I feel like I just don't see any honesty about like, okay, I locked down for a few months and that helped mass mail-in ballots come in. I printed a lot of money and, I shouldn't have done that because that kind of hurt my election. It's all like, no, they took it from me. I had no part in it. And everybody kind of buys into that narrative. And everything in the Trump world right now is a victim narrative. It's like, I'm the victim. They stole this from me. I'm the victim. I hire bad people, but it's their fault, not mine. I'm the victim. When I oversell the vaccine, it's everyone else's fault, not mine. I'm the victim. I got fooled by this, and you should just like a fool instead of having me to correct. His whole vibe is like victim, 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 victim. There is no like, I'm that guy. I lost a few, and now I'm gonna come back better, bigger, stronger than ever and win next time. It's like in order to buy into his like movement now, you have to play the victim. He's the victim of the election, even though his actions helped the mass mail-in ballots come. He's the victim of all the people he hired. He's the victim of taking big pharma money. He's so foolish that he's still selling the product more than Bill Gates, even though everybody else isn't. Even Ben Shapiro and Scott Adams stopped doing it, but like Trump's still doing it, but he's the victim. Like, it's annoying. It's cringe. It's like, it doesn't feel like the same movement as 2018. All right, I'm going to read some of your comments. Let me see real quick. Someone said, are you completely oblivious to voter fraud and the fact Trump should be president right now? Well, I'm going to say this. Trump won in 2016, didn't say much. They won all three branches. I'm just saying when it comes to mass mail-in ballots and that type of fraud and over, to me, that's really one of the huge elephants in the room besides the machines closing in Arizona. Trump is not a victim of this, though. If you throw 5 interceptions and lose the game and you blame one play, you're a loser, in my opinion. So Trump, if he wanted mass mail-in ballots not to come, he should have changed his rhetoric. When you're saying 15 days to slow the spread, when you're putting Scarf Lady and Dr. Birx on a stage for 2 months, when you're telling Georgia they shouldn't reopen their state a month and a half after lockdowns, you're a part of the voter fraud. You helped bring it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to say. But that's even what you're saying is like, he's a victim. He's a victim. He's not a victim. Now he's on True Social saying, oh, Scarf Lady's so corrupt. It doesn't matter that you say that now because Scarf Lady already did what she had to do and she played her role. When it mattered, you were sucking up to Scarf Lady. You let Scarf Lady on the television every day. You let Fauci run circles around you. When it mattered, now that it doesn't matter, he's all mad at Scarf Lady on Truth Social he's not even saying it on Twitter or Facebook where people could see it. He's just talking to like people who are trying, like, it's just cringe. I'm not saying that elections are 100% fair, but if you're not willing to admit your own flaws and your responsibility, then it's like Charlie Brown with the football. Just say you would do this differently next time so that doesn't happen. If not, I don't buy into that he's the victim of the election. I think he did it to himself. Like, if he would have been there the whole way saying we need to open up ASAP and we need to get this going and get normal, but when it's April 30th and you're telling Georgia to stay shut down and to not open non-essential services, you're going to get mass mail-in ballots because you're buying into this narrative for months that this thing is so bad that we have to change our society. He printed the CARES Act, which forever changed our society. He played into lockdowns for 2 months, which forever changed our society. And then society changes on the ballot side, and now all of a sudden he's a victim, even though he is in many ways responsible for the changes that happened, or at least playing a part of it. That's all I'm saying. And it's fine. People don't have to agree with me, but you're going to lose me and a lot of people, which is fine if you don't care. It's not a big deal, but it's like, I'm not like 2018. It's like, he's the best. He's awesome. And I'm like, no, he is kind of crushing. I mean, he's the leader. He's doing a great job. He's the man. He's not the man anymore. Now it's like you need to make excuses for him. He's the victim. He can't do it. Everything that happened to him is not his fault. Like, it's not appealing to me. Did I do a video on the Scarf Lady? I was calling out Scarf Lady in March, April, May, and June when it mattered, when Donald Trump was working with Scarf Lady. Now, 2 years later, when Scarf Lady's off doing book deals, now all of a sudden Donald Trump's so mad at Scarf Lady, but in March, he's smiling, he's letting her do everything, she gets everything she wants. I'm doing journalism saying, stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this. He's on TV with Gavin Newsom saying Gavin Newsom's doing such a great job. He's schmoozing it up with Phil Murphy of New Jersey. Phil Murphy's doing such a great job with the ventilators. Oh, I'm giving him all the ventilators. Mr. Ventilator, Mr. Vaccine, Mr. Extend the Lockdown, Mr. Georgia shouldn't open, Mr. Sweden should have locked down harder. Oh, but he's the big victim of the results of what happens when you do that. And 3 years later, now True Social, people are like, yeah, he's really sticking it to Scarf Lady. No, he's not. It's fine. I mean, it's nice that he realizes that Scarf Lady is not his friend, but it's like 3 years too late. I appreciate it, but like to me, if you don't do it when it matters, then what's the point? Let me see. Someone said lobbyists don't live in DC. It's a crime-ridden hellhole outside the Capitol. Probably true. I want to read some of your comments. Someone said Pfizer gave Trump $5 million in campaign contributions in late 2018. Look it up. Let me see. Trump, is that true? Because I didn't even know that. Let me see. Pfizer, $5 million. Did they really? It might take me a second to actually find this stuff. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I will look it up afterwards. I just know they gave him $1 million for his inauguration. Let me see. Someone said Netanyahu is prime minister of Israel again. Trump will be president again. Maybe. Anomaly should run for president. Well, here's the thing. If you say you should run for president, like as a compliment, I appreciate it. I mean, I don't even, but like when people are like, you need to run for president, shut up and you go do it. I'm doing journalism. This is important. You know, there used to be people that would call out lobbyists on both sides. Now people are so brainwashed. Left-wingers don't even care about lobbying. I'm trying to call out billionaire lobbies and they say it's anti-Semitic to call it out, or it's a conspiracy theory against Pfizer. And then when you call it out on the right wing because they're donating to, how dare you talk about my guy? Do people not realize that both sides are not like a threat? If the right wing gets mad at me for reporting on Trump selling out to big pharma and hiring lobbyists and taking pharma money, you're brainwashed. If the left wing doesn't want to talk about it because they just hate Trump, or like it's a fake world that they've created that isn't actually addressing the root of the problem. Someone said, howdy, bro. Is there anyone in America who you'd like to see president, with the super chat? I could be idealistic and say I want Superman as president, but as far as who might run, I would like Rand Paul more than Trump and DeSantis right now. If I don't think Thomas Massie could or would run, but if he did, I'd trust him more. I would trust Rand Paul more than DeSantis and Trump. I think Rand Paul has better foreign policy and domestic policy than DeSantis and Trump. And right now, I slightly favor Trump and DeSantis more, even though they're both sold out to the same entities. DeSantis seems more promising domestically, and it just seems like he hires better people. Like, you know, Joseph Ladapo, that's a good guy. Like, Joseph Ladapo is doing more than anyone else is doing. Like, why can't all these other Republicans hire somebody that's outside the system? Name one person that Trump hired that's not a deep state person. I can't even think of one person he hired. Everybody that was loyal, that was actually outside the system, Trump ended up throwing them out of his campaign. Like, I don't know who, like, name one person that Trump hired that's as good as Joseph Ladapo. I can't even think it. So I would like Rand Paul better than both of them, but it doesn't matter if they don't run. Someone said people will continue to believe whatever candidate strokes their self-interest, self-truths. People don't want to believe their worldview might in fact be wrong. Peace and love, brother. Keeping it real. Thank you, Robert, with the super chat. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's definitely how it is. And I want to say this too, because I think that at the end of the day, and I might do a whole video on this because it's two things at once. I'm just going to like bring it up. Jordan Peterson was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I thought he actually made a good point. And he's better in long form because on Twitter, I think it's not a good platform for Jordan. Like, he freaks out a lot at comments and stuff. But in general, he was trying to say, like, you know, everybody's afraid to say the truth. That's why they're anonymous online, and like they don't like put their face, or they'll be like a fake meme account or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think you shouldn't be allowed to do that. A lot of people are doing it because either they don't want to get fired, or, you know, like society's messed up. But a point that I thought that Jordan Peterson made that was good is he's like, this is why society's so messed up though. This is why the tyrants win, is because people are afraid to tell the truth and they're buying into the system. I think it's a valid point, although there's certain aspects of it I disagree with, but I think it's a good point. And, you know, I've said this before, if you're more afraid to do the right thing than the wrong thing, That's not good. Like, people should be more afraid to do the wrong thing than the right thing. So when you have a society of a bunch of men who say, I have to feed my family, I don't want to show my face, I don't want to stand up to my boss, you have the right to do that. But here's my thing. Then don't complain when society goes to shit, because you're a part of the society going to shit. When all the men who stand up firm and have bravery and take a risk do that, then you have a good society. When all the brave men are being weak and hiding and don't want to say the truth because they don't want to lose their job, the tyrants win. So, this might be unpopular, but it's like, I don't think we deserve anything in this country if people aren't willing to work for it. If 90% of men are afraid to tell the truth, so they hide and cower to their boss and they cuck out and basically go along with the wrong thing when they know it's wrong, like the forced masking and stuff, then don't complain. Don't complain about Trump. Don't complain about Biden. Don't complain about Democrats. Don't complain about Republicans. You have the right to do that, but you're part of the problem. It's not just Adam Schiff. It's not just Mitt Romney. It's us. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're waiting for Trump to save the world in 2024, it's like, it's not going to happen, because the net sum of our people aren't working hard. We got to get back in the gym, literally and metaphorically. We got to get mentally stronger, and we have to get braver to some extent. So, I think it is a valid point. I know in this country, 95% of people want to not stand up for the truth, yet they want good results. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, I want freedom. I want liberty. I want prosperity. I want the price of eggs to be lower. I don't want world wars. But at the same time, I don't want to take even a remote risk in my life, and I'm just going to basically go along with the wrong thing because I don't want to lose my job. It's like, okay, that's fine. But don't complain. You're part of it. You are, well, I have to do this in order to keep my job. Okay, then you have to do that. Then that's the world we live in. We live in this world not because of the politicians. We live in this world because we allow them to do what they do, because we're so cowardice. And I know it's hard for some people to realize, but it's like, I think to not just the founding fathers, if that story is even real, but if you look back to people that came here and had nothing and didn't speak the language and worked their ass off and did what they had to do and went to war. Like, people used to do that stuff. Now people are sitting getting Uber Eats saying, I think I deserve freedom, but I don't want to work for it. I think I deserve this, but I don't want to actually say the truth. Like, I understand it's difficult, but this is the decision we all make in our life. Do you live a lie? Do you speak lies? Are you completely afraid to do anything that you think is righteous because you're afraid to lose your job or family or whatever? You take that path. That's not an easy path. People will be like, that's an easy path. That's about as easy as a path as eating a lot of cheesy poofs every day and getting fat. Like, it's easier to eat cheesy poofs than it is to like eat healthy and work out. But then at the end of the day, like, that's not easy. It's not easy to be, 500 pounds out here looking like a Lizzo Bill Gates or whatever. Like, it's difficult. It's physically difficult. It's mentally difficult. So you could take the easy path that's temporarily easy. But to me, that's like living a lie is not fulfilling. It's not easy. So what Peterson, to his credit, was saying, it might be tough, but the adventure of a man's life is when he kind of stands up for something. And I'm not saying Peterson's right about everything, but I think he's totally right about that, where it's like, this is the fork in the road. You live a lie. You live your life cucked to people that you don't like. You become a cog in a machine that you don't even believe in. Everybody plays their role. There's nothing wrong with doing this job or this job. But if you don't believe in what you're doing, if you're afraid to tell the truth and your boss, like, you have to do left-wing social justice, that's not easy, because it's going to destroy you inside, because so many people are like, they hate their boss, they hate this, they hate that, and they just have to pretend like they like it. That comes at a cost too. And then the other way is like, be brave, stand up to the system, take a few more risks. Yes, that's tough. Yes, you might lose a position, but you might gain, as Peterson would call it, the adventure of your life and sometimes bravery is rewarding. In the UFC, or boxing, it's like, yeah, you might get brain damage. You know what I'm saying? And it's a crazy thing to do. It's crazy to be Tyson Fury. It's crazy to be Conor McGregor, but or Khabib or whoever. But you also become a legend that way. You don't become rich and famous and successful by not taking risks, and you don't become a champion and have deeper meaning without that. So there's always a balance in life, but I think people just think they deserve stuff. And I'm not just talking about Democrats and millennials. I'm talking about, I deserve freedom because I voted for Trump. I deserve freedom because I called out DeSantis. I deserve freedom. Okay, but are you putting in the work or are we all playing it super, super safe? I mean, there's a balance there. I don't necessarily judge people, but all I'm going to say is, if you're not willing to stand up for something, then just don't expect it. Feed your family and don't complain. If you got to feed your family, oh, I got to feed my family. Okay, I'm not mad at it. Feed your family, but stop complaining, because if you gotta wear the mask for 5 seconds to sit down in a restaurant, 99% of people did that. You don't want to stand up for that. Then this is the disconnect, is like, I don't think you deserve what you think you deserve. I don't think I deserve what I have. I think I worked for it. I don't think I deserve it in 3 weeks. If I fall off, I'm not going to run around throwing out emails at DeSantis. Like, I need to work more. You know what I'm saying? If I'm not getting better, if I'm not working, why do I, like, nothing is just like, you deserve freedom, you deserve liberty. I have more freedom than certain people, but it's not random. It's not like, oh, I have the freedom to do this because someone just gave it to me. It's because I busted my ass for 10 years when I was in my 20s. I worked hard. I worked 3 jobs and still pursued my passion outside of my job, and I never gave up. So I got to a position where I could get away from a boss. And even if you have a job as a man or whoever, it's like you have, and this is just like real life stuff, and hopefully it inspires some people. Everyone has decisions to make, no matter what your job is. It's like, if you're a nurse, if you're an electrician, if you work here, if you work at a corporation, that's not the only thing you could do. Of course, I'm not telling people to leave, but as a man, you have a decision. It's like, do I want to stay here? Then I'll stay here. Is this a good job? Then ride it out. Am I going to be able to grow here and get what I need? Do I enjoy it? Then stay. There's no problem with that. There's no problem to being loyal to a company. But if it's not, now you have to figure out a path out of it. Either you stay in somewhere you dislike, or you start to build your path outside of it. And if you have a job that you dislike, or a boss that's trying to make you be a left winger when you're not, and you have to be silent and you hate it and you can't stand it and it hurts you inside, no one's going to just give you the solution. You got to figure it out. You got to work as hard as you do at work, outside of work, for a couple weeks or a couple months to build the new path in your life, or send out resumes somewhere else to find something that you enjoy better. And that's just how it works. So it's like, everybody's been faced with a decision where they can't pay rent. It's not like I've never done this before. I was living paycheck to paycheck for 8 years. That's why I speak on this. It's not like someone gave me a lump sum and was like, here, go rap, and try out politics. This all happened randomly, but also it's not random because I worked for it. I lived paycheck to paycheck for 8 years. You can't tell me that you can't do something, because I already did it. And I did it by working my job, and then working when I got home. Working my job, working when I got home. I don't like my job. I'm sending out 100 resumes a week. Not 0, not 1, not 3, not complaining. I'm sending out more. It might take 300 resumes, but you get 1 job. Now I have another job. Now I have 2 jobs. Now I'm able to double them up, and I got $3,000 extra dollars. Now I got $3,000 in my bank account. I do that for 4 months. Now I have $12,000 in my bank account. Now I have the freedom to quit my job and work by myself for 3 or 4 months and pay rent without even having to work a job. But that's not random. It's because I worked 2 to 3 jobs for 4 months so I could take 3 months off to focus on myself. That's what you got to do. It's like, there's got to be a path out of it, or there's not. So, but we all have the decision, whether it's COVID, whether it's work, whether it's a bad boss, whether it's somebody that is like soul crushing. We're not stuck in this situation. There's 300 million people in this thing. There's tens of thousands of businesses. There's opportunity everywhere. It's not easy, but nothing worthwhile is. So, this is the type of energy outside of the Trump and DeSantis situation is, yeah, there's a case to be made for Donald Trump and his foreign policy. Yeah, there's a case to be made for Ron DeSantis and his domestic policy. But at the end of the day, we're going to get what we put in. So people will say, I don't like that you do this. I don't like that you do that. Whatever. I mean, you don't have to like it. You don't have to watch. You don't have to agree with me. But if you take anything from any of my live streams, it's like, Trump's not going to save me. DeSantis isn't going to save me. Neither of them are going to wipe my ass. Biden's certainly not going to help me. So at the end of the day, all I can control is what I do, and I have to keep putting out. And if everybody did that in this country, we would be a lot harder to control. There would have been no mask mandate. If everybody was who they said they were online, there would have been no mask mandate at restaurants. But the truth is, and this is why I go hard at Republicans, because I think you could take it. I don't think you're screeching outside an abortion clinic, like expelling demons like these losers on the left. I'm not saying the left can't do anything, but they do need to wake up. I challenge the right, not because I hate Republicans. It's because I know that these are stronger people. And it's like, you got all these people on social media with guns and hunting and fishing and stuff, but then they're wearing a mask to sit down at a restaurant because they don't want to, not eat at freaking, you know what I'm saying? Like Joe's Crab Shack. God forbid they can't go to Joe's Crab Shack. So I'm going to listen. It's like, if everybody was who they pretended to be, this thing would have disappeared 2 years ago. So that's even my point about Trump or DeSantis is like, the thing that's the most dangerous about Trump, in my opinion, is not his policy. It's the fact that nobody wants to challenge him. It's become like, if DeSantis gets donor money, he's a globalist. If, Marjorie Taylor Greene says this, she's in on it with McCarthy. But if Donald Trump does the same exact thing, he's this innocent victim who has no, responsibility. It's like, what? All I'm asking is the same thing. If DeSantis takes globalist donor money and Trump takes globalist donor money, have the same energy that you have with DeSantis with Trump. If McCarthy is endorsed by Marjorie Taylor Greene and McCarthy's endorsed by Donald Trump, have the same energy with Trump that you have with Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's the most dangerous thing about Trump, is he doesn't even try to do the right thing anymore, because he knows his base won't call him out and will make excuses for it. He's so entitled to his power that he forgot what got him there in the first place, which was not being a total loser. That's how he got that. So, that's all it is. God bless. And I just hope people do in their own life certain things, because the Republican Party will keep walking all over us, whether Trump or DeSantis gets in, if we're easy to walk all over. I found out late that Trump took in 2016 over $100 million from corporations. It's not just a million anomaly. He doesn't. $100 million? That's a lot of money. Okay. How come no one in the Republican Party reports that? Do you know why neocons and rhinos don't report that? Because they all take corporate money, so they can't talk about it. You know why Democrats don't report on that? Because they all take corporate money and they don't talk about it. They don't want to talk about it, because if they point out the fact that Trump got $100 million from corporations, then everyone will ask them how much money they got, and the answer is not zero. So nobody talks about that. Conservative influencers don't talk about it because it's not low-hanging fruit. It's not, something that the left is doing that they could laugh at. It's not the rhinos that are approved to do reporting on. It's like no one wants to. It's the elephant in the room. So how in the world are we going to get better results when Biden's taking tens of millions of dollars and nobody talks about it on the left and nobody likes him on the right? That's fine. And then Trump takes hundreds of millions of dollars and nobody wants to talk. Like, the system's not going anywhere. His hires were horrible, but nobody wants to question it. So why do you think you deserve anything? Like, what if Trump gets back in office? He should just pick bad people. Why wouldn't he? His base doesn't even care. I'm the only one who says something, me and like 5 people. Okay, so if Trump gets in, why not hire pharmacy lobbyists again? Who's asking him that question in a thing? What Fox News or Newsweek or Newsmax or whatever, who's challenging him and being like, Trump, you hired a bunch of pharmacy lobbyists and shills last time. Are you going to do that again? Like, who are you going to hire this time? An outsider like DeSantis did? Or are you going to hire a bunch of losers again? There's a question. Nobody wants to ask that question. So it's like, we deserve Trump and we deserve a good term. No, you don't. You deserve to end up in a lockdown again, because you guys don't have the spirit of America. You guys have the spirit of just putting on a red hat and saying that you're doing something. It's like, things don't happen randomly. When the country wakes up, the politicians will be forced to either wake up or do their job. It's not always their fault. It's our fault. We're allowing this system to take place because the left just hates Republicans and Donald Trump, so they've lost their mind completely, and the right just doesn't want to talk about that. So, what's the point? It's like with the left, I might do a video later about this that's like really short. I'm going to talk about the egg thing burning, but also, in California, because liberals are so brainwashed by fake activism and fake delusional media, celebrity vaccine dancers or whatever's happening, the fact that they always talk about that this is a desert and there's a drought. Well, Epic Times just reported that like billions or I don't even know how many gallons, trillions, billions went into the ocean. There's a way to conserve that and put them in reservations or whatever they're called. I forget the exact name, so that you have water, so it's not a drought anymore. But instead of building these things to keep the rainwater, because it just rained like for 3 months straight, not straight, but a lot of rain, they just let all that water go out into the ocean. So this is a problem not of climate change. This is a problem of stupid Democrat politicians who don't even care about keeping the rainwater to have water. They could solve this problem and this drought by building the right infrastructure, but they don't, because they know their base is brainwashed by the narrative of climate change, and they won't even question the fact that they could be doing something better. It's like, yeah, if the forest burned down, it's climate change. Not the fact that we're not logging and there's hundreds of millions of dead trees. No, it's climate change. If we don't build places to keep the rainwater, it's climate change. It's not our terrible infrastructure. It is their terrible infrastructure. So it's like, Democrats are never going to get anything good because they're totally gone. The right has a lot of good energy going on. It's just like, just a few things dialed in and we could really have a lot of wins, but it's going to take people playing their part. We can't just sit back and watch and say, oh, he's going to do it. DeSantis is going to do it. Trump's going to do it. They are both taking donor money. So when they get 50 million, 100 million, $7 million, there's a trade-off. You know what I'm saying? And that's what a politician is. I'm going to explain this again, and I hope they're like professional car salesmen. They could go behind the shadows, do deals with foreign countries, do deals with corporations, and then they come out and they convince you they're just like you. They're just like you, right? They never do that. Even though they're doing that, they just hope you don't notice. It's like a big acting thing. So our job is not to idolize these people and say, oh my gosh, I'm just going to assume that they're going to hire good people. Why? He didn't last time. Why would he hire good people this time? I'm just going to assume that he's not going to sell out to big pharma. He has so much money he doesn't need to, but he did. And it's obvious, but you don't want to talk about it, but you just want it to go away. Why would it go away if people aren't going to address it? It's like being fat and not wanting to work out. It's nothing wrong with it, but just don't complain. Like if you're not going to put in the work to get it over with, then you're going to be that way. That's just the reality of life. Like it's the same exact thing. Like it's just going to be different. Why? And this comes down, in my opinion, to people getting somewhat lazy and complacent. Just like with the freedom thing. Like everyone's like, we deserve freedom, but I don't want to talk about it. I want to be free in this country, but I'm so afraid that I can't even speak out at work. I get it, but if 80% of the population's afraid to speak out at work, is it your boss's fault or is it our fault? Because say there's a mask on an airplane. I'm just going to use an example. And one person stands up and says, I'm not going to wear a mask. Do you know if 10% or 20% of the plane, you don't even need 50%. If 10% of the plane said, I'm also not wearing a mask, it doesn't work. It only works when 99% of the people fall in line. And if you're not wearing a mask at a supermarket or to sit down, I've done it before as a social experiment. I'm yelling at everybody. Is anybody awake in this restaurant? Are you guys even like alive? Is this like a Truman Show? Are you guys like NPCs, just like computer characters or something? Because I know in this restaurant, at least 30 to 40 people agree with me, but not a single person's going to have my back. So you get, we don't like the mask mandate, but we're going to follow it. Okay. But just don't complain about it. You know what I'm saying? Like all it takes is 10 or 20% of people to have a spine, but our ancestors used to be brave. Our ancestors used to have some oomph. They understood that everything wasn't guaranteed. Many people immigrated from other countries and realized that this wasn't even common, and they had to work extra hard because they didn't have any handouts in this country. And that's how they got everything. You don't get everything by just sitting there and being like, oh, I deserve freedom because I wear a MAGA hat. Oh, I deserve freedom because I vote Republican. But you're not even willing to do the smallest thing and stand up for yourself and be brave. So if you're willing to play into the system that I'm afraid to tell the truth at work because I don't want to lose my job, you are a part of that machine. You are a part of the system, Yes, you got to feed your family. Yes, everybody has to balance certain things. Just don't complain, And I think that's the difference between a lot of people and some people is like, they just think because they were born in America, they deserve this. Oh, I was born here and this is how, well, it's not that way anymore. And it's not that way for a lot of reasons. And a lot of people don't want to talk about the reasons it's not that way. So the reasons are going to keep continuing. There's certain things that if I say, I know I'm going to get in somewhat trouble for, like when I talk about how Trump and DeSantis are both being lobbied by a certain group of people, that's the hardest thing to do. They call me anti-Semitic. They try to say I hate Jews, which I don't. They try to basically say I'm this and that. It's my least favorite thing to do because of the backlash from psychopaths on the left, on the right. It's the whole system comes down on me. If I mention Trump and DeSantis are taking donor money and they're passing speech laws that go against the Constitution, now all of a sudden I'm an anti-Semite. It's not fun for me to do that. It's not fun to have a bunch of psychotic left-wing journalists and people coming after me trying to act like I hate so many people and I'm so bad. They're now calling me an anti-Semitic rapper because I use the word Zionism in my rap song. That's what I am now, an anti-Semitic. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's what you're going to label me as? You think that's fun? It's not fun. But at the same time, if I know something is true and no one's talking about it, and I do journalism or I do this, like it would be fake to not talk about it, So it's like you weigh these things out like, yeah, that sucks, but it would suck even harder if nobody wants to talk about this stuff and it just keeps continuing and the country goes nowhere. Like this is the decision everyone has to make. So if we can even get 10 or 20% of people to just be a little bit more brave. And, that's when the system shifts. Now, it's like when people are like, it's not even worth supporting you anymore. I mean, the mini boycotts are one thing, but that's when it shifts. When they can't afford, when 30% of the plane is like, no, I'm not doing it, you're going to lose, 30% of your revenue now. And it's like, okay, well, we can't do that. We can only do it if one person doesn't listen to us, not if 30 of them. I'm going to read real quick some comments on Twitter because nobody's really saying too much about Trump or DeSantis. I'm just going to read a few. I asked people, I'm just going to go down the list today. I said, doing a Trump versus DeSantis live stream today, what's your best perspective? I'm just going to read a few. Pamela Goodman said, the disconnect between the base and medical freedom, both will always have speech laws, in my opinion. Tina said, DeSantis is the balls without the baggage. Klaus Schwab posting W's parody. It's not really Klaus Schwab. He said, be my guest, the White House and DC is theater. Pretty funny. Hotep Davey said, DeSantis is popular on the things he implemented in Florida, but is that because Trump being a resident and Trump hyping DeSantis? If that's the case, can DeSantis keep the same energy and becoming the president? And will Florida residents panic losing a great governor? Interesting point. Steve said, I never liked Papa vaccine Trump and never will, but after 2020, I despise the guy. Not sold 100% on DeSantis either. While he's the best in a bad lot, he needs to do a lot more on medical freedom, COVID fascism front for me. Interesting. Lisa said, I have some issues on some things Trump has done. Vaccine emoji. They are hard to forgive. However, I definitely don't want DeSantis. If you get a real chance, read the thread below and become familiar with the real DeSantis. I would read the thread, but I think that person blocked me or vice versa. It says it's limited. I can't read it. Let's see. Someone said a rock in a hard place, catch 22, doesn't matter. SG on YouTube said Trump versus DeSantis doesn't mean much in the grand scheme, bro. We got to end the Federal Reserve. Well, I think someone like a Rand Paul would agree with you more there. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be the guy that would talk about the Fed more. That's why I like him for many reasons. Shane said, just curious, when DeSantis said he even wanted to run, can't understand why everyone's pitting the two against each other. If I was Ron, I'd be super content in the position I'm in. Only ego would entice a presidential run at this point. Well, I think DeSantis is going to run based on a lot of things. He didn't declare yet, but a lot of the things behind the scenes. And why would he want to run? Maybe he sees weakness. Maybe it's ego. You never know. Someone said pre-2016, DeSantis was a spineless and weak as the rest of the GOP before Trump ran. Bottom line, only one of these men can be trusted to not sell out the globalist establishment. Things are too critical to risk DeSantis morphing back into the Romney type, Trump 2024. I agree with Hudson on the energy of DeSantis, but it's like, are we going to pretend like Trump didn't endorse Mitt Romney in 2018? Are we going to act like a week ago Trump didn't endorse Mitt Romney in 2022, or Mitt Romney's niece, Ronna McDaniel, and help her behind the scenes? So it's like, I agree. Call out DeSantis, say he's spineless, but the people that are trying to convince me of this, like Trump will really fight Mitt Romney, he endorsed him in 2018, like not in 2014, in 2018. So I just wish the base had the same energy with Trump, have the same energy you have with DeSantis. Like him more, but me as like a person that's not fully decided if it were those two, to be like, we can't afford turning back into the Romney type, but the guy who voted for Romney or endorsed Romney in 2018, he's totally like not like like I just don't see it, but it's okay. Someone said people should think about this. Hold on. Pretty sure Dems troll your videos trying to get people to hate all Republicans like you. I don't hate all Republicans. To me, it's not like oh my God, if you criticize your side, you hate your side. I'm a registered Republican. I vote Republican. I mean, I could vote however I want. I'm just telling you the truth. The Democratic Party can do nothing for me, but I don't see it like we have to just fight the left and then we'll win. It's not true. If we don't reform our own party, what if we are the left? What if the same people running the left are running the right? What if we're not going anywhere? So that's why I talk about my own party, because it's like, if Democrats win, it's not good for us. But if Republicans win and we end up getting almost the same results as Democrats, that's never going to change until we reform our own party. So that's the reason. It's not like Democrats are convincing me to hate Republicans. I don't hate Republicans. It's just I know who they really are. I see it, and I know how they operate. They say, you got to vote for us because the left sucks. And the left says, don't you hate the abortion, anti-abortion people? You got to vote for us. And both sides fight. And then the same entities pay off Biden and Trump, and no one ever gets to the bottom of it. So I'm not falling for Democrat posters on Facebook or something. It's just like, it's just how I feel. Maisie said on YouTube, I hope that DeSantis is not controlled opposition putting us on. Gordito0971 on Twitter said neither of them will make a difference. Netapaz on Twitter said Trump expects DeSantis to bow down to him and let him have the ticket as if Trump is king and deserves to have people submitting to him. DeSantis recognizes Trump has made big mistakes and wants to steer things differently. I think that's a good point. Someone said yay, meaning the formerly known artist is Kanye West. Someone said they're both Ivy Leaguers. That's a bad thing. DeSantis fighting the jabs is a massive push for me. Trump endorses it and is buddy-buddy with Big Pharma, and that's a flush down the drain for me. Sucks, too, because I really like Trump, but he really messed up with Operation Warp Speed and pharma immunity, said Mr. Duality. Yeah, I think so many people, and this is, you don't have to agree, but so many of the people that are leaning towards DeSantis don't hate Trump, and they're not like, oh, I never like. These are people who voted for Trump once or twice. So this is just my personal perspective to his advisors or whoever. If you want Trump to get more votes, I mean, you could do this strategy, but just like bashing DeSantis and not correcting your own mistakes is a weird strategy. It's an odd strategy. Like if Trump would literally just basically stop saying the vaccine saved 100 million lives and it's the greatest human achievement. He doesn't have to completely distance himself from everything, but like just stop being the biggest shill in the world. But he doesn't want to do that. It's like, I'm not going to correct myself. I'm not going to take responsibility. I'm not going to take accountability. I'm going to play the victim in every sort of situation. And people should just vote for me because they just should. That's the Trump campaign strategy now. It's not convincing me. It's not convincing a lot of people on my Twitter. It's definitely convincing close to half the base, but Trump could have a bigger lead in the polls, if they're even real, if he just addressed what he wasn't doing right and did it. It's like, I don't want to change. You should just like me, which makes me like him even less. It's like, oh, you're definitely not going to change if you won't even make a statement. If Trump came out and said, hey, I caved too much to Big Pharma, and next time I'm going to hire outsiders instead of pharmacy lobbyists, I would trust him. I'd be like, hey, he did that last time. He hired a bunch of pharmacy lobbyists to run the government, and that's why we ended up in the position we did. Not because Trump's the victim, because Fauci fooled him in 2020. Trump was in on the corruption day one, and that's why we got everything we got. Trump hired pharmacy lobbyists and executives to run the government. So don't expect when pharmacy lobbyists do what they do. Usually they shouldn't be in government, but they seem to always be somehow because they pay off both parties. So if he came out and said, hey, this time I'm not going to hire pharmacy lobbyists. I'm going to hire actual doctors who are qualified but not corrupted by Big Pharma, I'd be like, okay, this guy learned his lesson. Instead, he says, no, I'm not doing anything. I mean, it's everyone else's fault. It's DeSantis who locked down, not me. Who buys this stuff? Somebody does, but it's just not me. Even Bryson Gray is a huge Trump supporter, and he's like, dude, lean into what you're good at. You're good at foreign policy. Lean into that. You can't lean into lockdowns. You're not good at that. You're not better than DeSantis on the COVID topic. So just lean into what you're good at. That's not their strategy. Someone said Trump did hire Scott Atlas, though. He was definitely one of the only real ones, but he had no real power. Scott Atlas was like an advisor or something. If he would have put Scott Atlas as the head of HHS, or if he would have put Scott Atlas as the head of FDA, that would have been a huge win. But instead, Scott Atlas had some powerless position where he ended up getting ousted out of the government. But yeah, Scott Atlas was a great hire. It's just, if Trump runs again, he should say, I'm gonna put Scott Atlas as the head of the FDA. Then I would be cool with it. JK said, you're spot on with the news. You tend to editorialize it as well as, however, by doing that correctly reinforces your point. Well done, Anomaly. Appreciate it. Someone said Scott Atlas was treated like a clown and Trump never gave him proper support because he's a coward. Well, yeah, I mean, he had this advisor sort of position where nothing he said really mattered. He had no real power. He could have been on TV too. I mean, Scott Atlas could have been on TV every day instead of Dr. Birx. No one said you have to put Birx and Fauci on TV every day. That's not written into the Constitution. That was a choice. That was a Trump, Team Trump, him and Pence and whoever, that was their choice. They're like, we're going to put Dr. Birx and Fauci on television every day for 2 months. It's like, you didn't have to do that. You could have put on anyone or just talked yourself. Let me see. Someone said, because Larry Silverstein is very lucky. I know you know. Anomaly won't read my super chats. I didn't see it. Was it like the $2 super chat? I mean, I missed it. Sorry. Someone said, hey, Anomaly, can you do a live shows once in a while where you take calls? Maybe. I just don't have the technology right now. So I've improved my show a lot with a better camera and better clips and stuff involved. Eventually, maybe, but I don't know. Someone said, Trump, get with DeSantis, stop the destructing inner fighting. One thing I noticed too was like, people were like, this is an establishment. The globalists are trying to, get us to fight. It's like, maybe, but like Trump is the one calling out DeSantis. And then, since they're both really popular, everyone's going to have an opinion. So it's not like, this is my huge, and I wish somebody was listening around Trump, and they don't have to. I mean, maybe they could still win without my support and millions of people's support. He still can. He's still a powerful candidate, but I can't buy into this victim narrative. Like, if Trump starts a fight with DeSantis, I'm not mad at that. I don't care. But then it's not his fault. Oh, it's someone else starting the fight. Not like, no, he is for reasons because he wants to win the election. I'm not mad at that. It's just like, just take accountability for it. Like, you did this, just take account. When everybody plays so dumb with the guy, it turns me off even more because it's like, I'm not trying to persecute him for the rest of eternity for things he didn't do. But if you're not going to pretend, if you're going to pretend like they never happened and I'm not allowed to talk about it, how in the world am I going to trust you to do the right thing when you're not even admitting what happened last time? Battle Elf said, make America Gentile again with the $2 chat. I mean, it is a majority still, but I mean, you got to be throwing out bigger super chats than $2 for that. That's a cheapo. So, Someone said Anomaly would be a great moderator. I'd give a great interview. I'd be a good moderator, absolutely. But, I don't think people want to do interviews with me. I think they want to do softball interviews. But who knows? I mean, I don't know how you get a Trump interview. Probably convince somebody near him that it's the right thing to do. Someone said, my chat was a compliment. You almost sound bummed. No, I appreciate you, Jay Case. That was the super chat before. I'm not bummed. I guess after an hour, the energy slows down just a little bit. Someone said, Mitch McConnell told Trump which judge to hire, and therefore they are Mitch's judges. I mean, they're all weak judges, in my opinion. Amy Coney Barrett supported lockdowns, and justified that constitutionally. Brett Kavanaugh, I mean, that was a spectacle, but we'll see how good he is. Who was the other judge? The first one? I forget. I wouldn't doubt that. Someone said Trump endorsed every rhino in the zoo. I guess I can't speak for everybody, but if he looked at that and was like, yes, this time I'm going to do it differently, but it's like he's showing signs that he's just getting worse. He's hanging out with Lindsey Graham. It's like, can I mention that? No. I'd like to see you moderate the real thing. Yeah, they'll never let me do that, but I appreciate it. Gorsuch, yeah, that's the guy's name. Glad to hear you still speaking truth. Like the new song. Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I don't think we're going to hit the Billboard charts, but I don't know. We're at like 40 or 50 on the charts now. We have to stay top 15 to hit it all week. So I'm going to stop promoting the iTunes link. And, if you have Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you use to stream, just check out Thought Leader by Anomaly. I don't think we're going to be able to hit the charts, unfortunately, but we came close. I mean, it's not over, but I would have to get back in the top 15. It's hard to do. I only use an email list and social media, so I'm not trying to bash people over the head. Add it to a playlist. It's free. $5 from Battle Elf. Imagine. Yeah, dude, stop. But Anomaly, wear your Kevlar undies. What? DeSantis goes over and kisses the wall just like Trump, said Zeberg. This is true. But that's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. And here's the thing. It's like, I don't hate that country. And now they're basically semi-fighting Iran, or they always have been. It's just when you take a bunch of money and then you pass things against the American Constitution, that's when I have a problem. And that's what Trump and DeSantis will both do. And no one's going to talk about it because every right-wing media is in on it or doesn't want to lose their position. You have no idea how many people know. Like I'm not going to say who, but I've had conversations with some of the biggest right-wing influencers. Some of them, I consider my friends. I've hung out with, I respect them, and, to each their own. But I've had conversations with people where I'll explain to them. I'm like, Trump and DeSantis are passing these like weird anti-Semitism speech laws that are very broad and very unconstitutional and very bad, because once you give up speech and pass hate speech laws, it's only a matter of time until you turn into Canada or Australia. I thought we were trying to not be like Europe. We didn't want hate speech laws, right? We don't want hate. We're not under left-wing fake Sharia law where we can't say certain things. That's not supposed to be America. So when I say this to people behind closed doors, big influencers, they're like, oh, like it's not like they're debating me and they're like, oh, you're wrong. They're like, no, that's a good point. No, you're right. No, that's true. Yeah, they just don't want to talk about it. They know that that's dangerous to talk about, because then people will be like, oh, what do you hate the whole country? Oh my gosh, what do you hate them? What do you want to hurt them? It's like, no, I just don't want speech laws to be passed in America. Every influencer knows about this stuff. Either they support it, they're totally conning you, or they're afraid to talk about it because they know that's when they'll lose their money. It's not the Crowder Shapiro thing is like a total controlled opposition circus where it's like, he tried to pay me and said I was going to get docked 10% if I didn't, have a YouTube. Like, that's not that huge of a deal that everyone's making. The real, and everybody, the people that were like role-playing Rosa Parks, a lot of do-nothings that never said anything interesting or journalistic in their entire career, all of a sudden they're like role-playing activists. They're like, I support Steven Crowder and that makes me a hero. And it's like, you don't do anything though. Like, whether you support that side or the other, that doesn't make you a good journalist or an interesting influencer. They all know this stuff, but they won't talk. They love to like fake like they're doing something. Like, me supporting Steven Crowder means I'm standing up to Big Con. If you really want to stand up to Big Con, including the people Crowder's worked with, why don't you say what they don't want to say, that our party is being bought out by lobbyists, both big pharma and a foreign country, essentially, to pass laws in America to turn us into Australia. And Trump's in on it and DeSantis is in on it. Do you guys want to say that? And then no, of course not. They don't want to say. Why don't they want to say that? Because they don't want to endure what I and others have to endure. They don't want to be called anti-Semitic. They don't want to be falsely smeared. They don't want their money to stop flowing. They don't want to stop getting invited to events. They don't want to not get flown out to Mar-a-Lago. They don't want to rub Ben Shapiro or TPUSA the wrong way. So nobody says it. Not because I'm wrong, but because that's a threat to their career, which, now these people just turn into like basically just like half-wits. I don't know. I mean, I don't listen to too many people, but there's a difference whether you're left wing or right wing. There's a difference between somebody that actually means what they say and stands for it and a person who's just being a team player. Like, I believe in the First Amendment, but not if I want to lose my sponsor. So I'm not going to talk about that. I believe in the First Amendment and I believe in capitalism and I believe in freedom. But when our team doesn't do that, like, I don't want to talk about it unless it's only the rhinos. Like, it's safe to talk bad about Lindsey Graham and, John McCain, but like, I don't want to challenge like the more popular Republicans because like they're, that'll look bad for my brand because a lot of my group supports them. So this is what a lot of influencers really are. It's like they do good work. They're funny, interesting, some of them, but they're professional sports teams players. They're just like, they're really not that much different from a Republican politician. Like, a lot of Republican commentators are kind of like pretending like they're doing this like deep diving analysis on, but they're really just like the new, like watered down version of Sean Hannity, or like, like Marco Rubio 4.0, where it's like they're pretty much only pushing buttons they're allowed to push, but not other ones. Like, it's easy to say on the right wing, it's easy to say China influences politicians and, we need to stop China from taking over the world, or that's easy to say for a right winger. I'm not saying you can't say it. China is a geopolitical threat to America. China is siding with Iran and Russia, and we're starting this like liberal gay world order, war or something where everybody needs to have like feminized men and, drag queen story hour. Like, I'm not sure what we're doing, but something like that, or over energy or something. But in general, it's like, you could say that China is a huge threat because everybody on the right agrees with you. And also, that's the one thing that George Soros and Donald Trump agree on. Not the one thing, but, if you look up George Soros's Twitter, he criticizes China just as much as Donald Trump criticizes China, because China is a threat to both wings of the American bird because they're not playing along with us. I'm not saying China's good. I'm not saying I support them. I'm just saying that's easy to say if you're a right winger, because it's, everyone says it, from Pompeo to Soros to Democrats. Most Democrats, not all of them, some of them are sold out to China, but a lot of them will criticize China too. But on the right, that's easy. So every influencer does that. They say China virus. It's easy. I'm not saying you can't do it or say it. If it's true, say it. But the things that aren't easy are things people don't want to talk about, like how big pharma is buying out Republicans. That's not as easy to say because now it challenges people that you go to dinners with. So let's just not talk about that. Let's just not talk about that. The speech laws, let's not talk about that. The lobbying money, the donor money on the right wing, let's not talk about that unless it's just DeSantis. But we're not going to talk about how Trump gets it too. It's like, where is this going if we're so fake that we don't want to talk about things that aren't easy? That's why I do what I do. And that's why I talk about certain topics more. It's not that it's the only thing I care about, but I know if there's only like 1% of right wingers talking about it, I'm going to talk about it more often to just try to instill it into the culture of the party, because it's so rare to find. Someone said big pharma controls like a mafia. For sure. I mean, they definitely have a lot of money, a lot of power. They've swallowed up politics, and it's been for like 30 years, and it's just getting worse and worse. Here's one of my, because people will say, well, what's the solution? You complain so much. What's the solution? Trump and DeSantis, I don't think are going to do much about big agriculture, big pharma. If I had to guess, I would guess that DeSantis would probably do more, in my opinion, just based off what he has done. If I were to roll a dice and bet, I would say there's a bigger chance that DeSantis reigns in big pharma and big agriculture. I don't know that for sure, but that's just my guess. But in general, I don't see either of them really talking about it that much. So I think if the base was like, listen, huge threats are big pharma and big agriculture. They're basically taking over our entire country. Like, our food quality is lower than a lot of the world, including the third world. Our rules are insane. Everything is basically rigged for big pharma and big agriculture. It's rigged for the Monsantos to spray stuff. It's rigged for the Pfizers and Modernas to take no liability for their products. The whole system is rigged for big pharma, which now controls big agriculture, and they're spraying our foods and turning it into they're going to do even more weird stuff. They're talking about making mRNA plants and stuff. They've already kind of, we need to do mRNA salads. And this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's mainstream news. They're trying to make edible mRNA stuff. How? I have no idea. Is it possible? I don't know, but they're talking about it. And the thing is, they'll probably do it, whether Biden or Trump wins, because neither of them care about big pharma or big agriculture. So this is where, yes, there's this arena, and yes, the left wing is bad, but until the base wakes up to this, nothing's going to change. And I know nothing's going to change because when I do reporting and I say, I have proof that big pharma paid Trump. I have proof that he hired pharmacy lobbyists. It's public records. It's all obvious. It seems like he's compromised, and it's pretty obvious. At bare minimum, if you don't believe it, please somebody ask him a question in an interview so we can get an answer from him, because it's pretty obvious. Okay. And people get more mad sometimes than they do happy that I'm pointing that out. How in the world are we going to rein in big pharma and big agriculture when you get mad that I point out that they're controlling the Republican Party too? Did big pharma and big agriculture get better under Trump's presidency? Wake up. They got worse. Why did they get worse? Because nobody's even trying to stop them. They're just eating us up like Pac-Man, and nobody cares. Bayer and Monsanto merged under the Trump presidency. Is it his fault? No. Did the Justice Department do us any favors? No. They let one of the most corrupt and insane pharmaceutical slash I would say pesticide slash seed owners, like the biggest agriculture company, merged with one of the biggest pharmacy companies, and now they're one entity, Bayer and Monsanto. That happened a couple years ago. The lockdowns, Operation Warp Speed, that happened. Big pharma's not getting better. Big agriculture's not getting better. So how do we change that? People have to care. But this is why I talk about the right so much. If I bring it up, people get mad. It's like they just want to watch a sports game. People don't want results. They don't want to get better. They don't want to win. They just want to watch a sports game. This is my team. This is my guy. I don't want to hear anything about it. Okay, then you're going to get two puppets on stage yelling at each other, both backed by donors, both backed by big pharma, both backed by politicians, both backed by corporations. He's taking $80 million. He's taking $100 million. They're going to yell at each other. They don't mean anything they say. They're not genuine, but you like that one because you think he's more genuine, and you like that one because he's going to fight the right guy. That's what you're going to get in 2024, 2028, 2032. The only way to win is to address the root of the problem. But when I address the root of the problem, people get mad at me. The left wing calls me anti-Semitic because I talk about donors, and then they also say it's like a anti-vax conspiracy theory that Pfizer pays off politicians. And then the right wing says I'm hating on. I do journalism about Biden. That's great. Thank you, Anomaly. I do journalism about rhinos. That's great. Thank you, Anomaly. I do journalism about Trump. Oh, you're hating. You hate him. Okay. And you expect things to get better, but you don't want to talk. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But that's where people are in this country. They just want to watch a show. They want to watch a battle. They don't care if it means anything. They don't care if it's going anywhere. They just want to believe it's going somewhere. And that's why I try to shake it up a little bit, not to be mean, not to be rude, but to kind of challenge people personally, personal lives, and also like politically. Like, we need a challenge. I hope DeSantis and Trump run against each other, and I hope one of them says something of value and doesn't just make a fake fight out of it, because a challenge would be excellent. That's absolutely what our party needs. The last thing our party needs is to cakewalk Donald Trump on a stage and let him have a fake fight with Mike Pence and Nikki Haley, and everybody votes for Trump because they're losers, and then we're acting like we're going somewhere. No, we need Rand Paul. I hope Rand Paul runs. I don't know if he'll win, but I hope he runs, and I hope he speaks the truth. I hope DeSantis runs, and I hope they call each other out authentically and have a real battle, because that'll make the party better. But let me know what you think. God bless you. Appreciate you so much. And I will be back soon, probably later today, to talk about the egg thing. It's interesting, and I'm going to keep it short.